Fo tene ba equipa protocolo, hanoi no hinita hang mediona, ita força fale, osidete se solo com música, mas be equipa protocolo, fo tene ela distinto convidado siranabe ia crai, belo la parte, tamba minuto balo tan ita hahuona ita nia atividade. Tes. Tes. Foi atene ba equipa protocolo atu informa ba itane distinto convidado sira kare ki ha krai no iha liur kare hal favor hola hikas fati nune minuto balutan ita continua itania dialogo. No foi atene ba alin estudante sira no distinto convidado cadeira serna be mamuk ita bele hakat mai prensa la cadeira serna. Husuba excelência no distinto convidado, bele rola fatin, não é tuanta ainda continua. Ato continua a atividade na Baoin, ao Hanoi também nita almoço na e a sessão 1 ou 2 italiana, e ita se acompanha diálogo interativo internacional. Molo kita tu hakat by dan ba, fo tempo ba mau izo atau hak solo kita iha media dan Obrigado.
Usi fogo, fogo, lolon. Usik ser amores matak no buras. Ori salva amores no tahan metinrai. Usi dut no ai hori sera. Kita kokote sin no sunu motu krai. Nehanesan oh ita anrasi. Cuidado no seguro de dia crai. O de bele fomores dia mai ita. Seguro rania burasa domi ba o ai horis yarai. Seguro rania burasa domi ba orai. Atu diak bawang nobe oan ia futuru mai. Oh na 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 na. Usi fogo fogo lolon. Usik ser amores matak no buras. Ori salva amores no takan metinrai. Usi dut no agori sira. Kita kokote sino sunu motu krai. Nehanesan oh ita anrasi. Cuidado no seguro de dia crai. O de bele fomores dia mai ita. Seguro rania burasa domi ba orai. Cuidado niaganesang ita anrasik. Seguro rania burasa domi ba orai. Kita kokote sino sunu ai hori siarai. Seguro rania burasa domi ba ora. Atu diak bawang nobe oan iya futuru mai. Seguro rania burasa domi ba ora. Cuidado niane sang ita anrasik. Seguro rania burasa domi ba ora. Kita kokote sino sunu ai hori siarai. Seguro rania burasa domi ba ora. Atu diak bangan yang beoan ia futuru mai. Oh, obrigado, Bara.
Obrigado, Barak Mauizu. Ita se minuto balotan tambah senhora Ana Sidau Kiafati. Depois senhora Ana marca presença nesse convida moderador ou de modera sessão termai. Tambah Doutora Ana Sidauki hane karek mau izu hanarutan musik ida.
Hakarak informa baita hotu katak iha se sound ida igusnian maghanesan diálogo interativo Husi internasional ne regional sernia perspektiva hareliu batema geral ne bita foti hanesan challenges media challenges in Timor-Leste and Southeast Asia. Iha se sound ida ne se modera husi itania moderador senhor Francis Suni no iha momento ida ne mag depois de sessão moderador modera ona depois iha discussão diangkatak se iha interativo entre audiência sira ho itanya bainaka kada perguntas rumah semoso então iha momento da nemak ita aproveita a oportunidade da ne com hira iha sessão diálogo interativo né ita hotu participa máximo nune ita precisa bele heta iha sessão ida ne dia turma respeita me convida que era moderador senhor Francis de Suni onde bele lidera a sessão ida né
Dia, obrigado ba MC, nebe convida ona hawata tu hakat mai hane hodi modera itene sessão idane uluk nang hauni respeito ba presidente conselho de imprensa no conselheiro Sirahotu nebe marca presença nomos bainaka sira nebe marca una presença ne ita Timor hau tuhin tama mai hate kitoang quando dader ita hamutu kia nene mesak embot det mesak nai ulung det lokrai kona kala dukur mo sakas ita kiik sira mak raut malu fale vai pronto ne Timor me ita ki quando hamutuk ne mak rame vai vai quando embot ihane ita kuliah mos ita se hanu embarbara kita mesak kiik det ne ida ne yang se saung dialogo nebe tempo beta tu ita kuliah ba malu dia kliutan iha sesaung idane iha lista ita iha ona bainaka atau kuliah kona ba desafio sirane be media hasoro iha Timor-Leste no Sudeste Asiático e Pacífico iha lista nebe hausimu iha bainaka naing lima mai be haufeng hetan konfirmasaung katak iha naing rua nebe kariklabele marca presença tambane hau uluk na naing permiti hau atau convida lai bainaka naing ida nebe agora ene i naing rua tamba virtual Senhor Bob ho Senhor Adara nebe orsida ita dialog ho sira virtual date ihane ami hau se hamutuk deto ida lolos iha naing rua mai be ida seluk la konsege mai au se uluk nanaing le uluk sirani naran i permiti hau ami emo ikuse madeng ami nanal ne uza koko masing runtan ho buah ho malus batan dalam rumah le arbiru det mebe tambah uluk iskola itu ang hau koko tu le di dia itania baina kaida primeiro mak Bob Howard country correspondent for Timor-Leste, Papua New Guinea and Solomon Islands for Reporters Sans Frontiers virtual. Itu irmai hau noing aproveitamos oportunidade ini to convida quedas ita se mo Senhor Jim Nolan IFGJ Asia and the Pacific. I would like to invite Jim to please join me on the stage. I'll just do a very brief introduction of all the guests and then I guess we'll start with the session. I guess it would be better if you sit here, Jim, because we have the microphones on the table. So, aitenia bainaka tu irmai mak Senhora Dara Nasution, meta Facebook, nebe hanesang wendean tiona se virtual mo ita se alo honia virtual. Narang ida tu irmai ne mak haule tau gitu ang hanesang wendean haudeng nanalo ekusi be to situang. So kahule Senhora Ana Lomtadje, husi UNESCO, nebe lolos hamutu koita yane, mai be karik tamba servicio importante seluk la konsege yane, i lolos itamos hamutu komba na joa siap, mai be tamba daledetan, ita kalaki ki deti hanebe, ita la konsege participa, mai pronto iha itane iha ona Senhor Jim, husi IFJ, i Senhor Bob, se amutu koita, Senhora Dara mose, Senhora Ana yang sei hadalang, ita Timornya quando temi hadalang ne ita bele laut ya tinang ida mak fuing to. Mai pronto, hau noing atu la bele dada tan tempun tamba oras ida hobalu mak ita iha, uluk na naing hau convida Senhor Jim atu introduce laini ang i se karik sistema pronto na ba Senhor Bob ho Senhora Ana tu introduce sirani ang or sida house for oportunidade. Sira join tiona? Okay. Jim, we will have Bob and obviously Miss Ana from Indonesia joining us, but however, this is a dialogue session, so I would like to maybe first start with you, just a brief introduction, and then we'll go to Bob and then Ana when she joins, and then Dara. Then I'll obviously give you a few minutes to present something on your particular topic. Then we open it to the floor for the dialogue. So I guess you might want to go ahead with introducing yourself.
Is that right? Okay. Well, thank you very much, and thanks especially to the Press Council of Timor-Leste. I think this is the third or fourth time I've come up here with some press issue or other, and including the previous Dili Dialogue Forum. What I'd like to say to start off with is to make it quite clear that the International Federation of Journalists and me personally would like to dissociate themselves completely from what our friend from Myanmar said before lunch. We really reject completely and utterly the claims that were made, which were really nothing more than propaganda for the Tatmadaw dictatorship. The IFJ and a whole raft of reputable journalistic sources and bodies have described in painful detail what's happened in Myanmar since the coup. It wasn't just a change of government, it was a brutal military coup that's resulted in the arbitrary detention and murder of quite a lot of people. And it's very, very sad to have any coming along to a forum like this trying to justify what's occurred there. So that said, I'll move to some of the other areas of Southeast Asia where the IFJ has made some observations. But I suppose the most important, and this is a work in progress really, is the position in Indonesia at the moment. And it's unfortunate that nobody from Indonesia has been able to come here and speak directly to the topic. But I know the Press Council and others are very conscious of the fact that changes to the Indonesian legal system, which are in the works at the moment, raise some very serious concerns about the state of democracy and freedom in Indonesia. And these may well have a big impact on the freedom of the press in Indonesia. They've endeavoured to be played down to a degree, but expert commentators who've had an opportunity to analyse these proposals in some detail have continued to express their reservations about these proposed changes. And in the next few weeks, more of these issues will emerge, and I know for a fact that RG, the journalists' union in Indonesia, will be very active in campaigning about proposed changes to the law. So it's not just the legal framework which is concerning, but there are other particular issues that have occurred in Indonesia that have raised very serious concerns. The government in Indonesia's taken over the power to block private electronic systems, and there have been other individual examples of intimidation of journalists and lawless behaviour directed towards the free press. A bit closer, is that? Is that better? I thought it might be too loud. Okay. So the lesson there is that we need to watch developments in Indonesia very carefully and monitor what's happening through RG and through the Press Council in Indonesia and other law reform bodies in Indonesia, because whatever happens there, have no doubt about it, will have a significant impact on the region. But at least it can be said of Indonesia that it's a relatively free society compared with many other Southeast Asian countries. The IFJ has also had occasion to express concern about developments in Cambodia. As we all know, nothing seems to improve in Cambodia, and any excuse seems to be utilised to suppress any free journalistic activity. So that's very much a matter for concern. And by way of example, only recently environmental activists have been detained and have been the subject of repressive activities. That's only in the last couple of weeks, and assaulted by authorities. But more broadly, the freedom of the press is under threat constantly in Cambodia. For all practical purposes, it doesn't exist, and important press personages over the years have been arrested or been prevented from exercising their rights as journalists. The other recent issue that's arisen for the IFJ has been developments in the Maldives. Now, of course, the Maldives are usually seen as this beautiful, idyllic holiday destination, but in fact there have been some very significant developments there because there have been changes to the nation's Evidence Act, which will allow courts to require journalists to disclose their journalistic sources in a way that provides no sufficient protections. And so the IFJ only in the last few weeks has been involved in campaigns in the Maldives directed to that very issue. Similarly, in Vietnam, there's been a recent incident of somebody not only being caught but dying in detention in early August, an independent citizen journalist, and that's just one of a series of repressive acts against individuals who endeavour to try to exercise their rights to journalistic expression in Vietnam. Similarly, in Bangladesh, there have been problems with the assault and persecution of journalists, and that's only in the last couple of weeks, and that's a matter of grave concern. In Pakistan, there are significant problems. As you'll be aware, Imran Khan's government was pushed out. He's making a comeback, or a push for a comeback, but the problem is in the process, a lot of journalists and press outlets have been the victims of various attempts to suppress freedom of the press, and a major television producer was arrested on sedition charges only a couple of weeks ago. So it's a very vexing position there. This has just occurred right across the board. You'll be aware the old repressive laws that were promised to be repealed in Malaysia have stayed on the books, and the former Prime Minister Najib was jailed, I think the day before yesterday, because of his involvement with that massive 1MDB financial scandal. But who knows what will happen. He's been trying to run out the clock because there's another election due to occur in Malaysia. So things are likely to get much uglier in Malaysia. Only a little while ago, the Court of Appeals in Malaysia found the publication Malaysia Kini, which many of you will be familiar with. It's an online publication that's very professional, very good. They were found in contempt of court because of some readers' comments on the blog site, and they were fined a massive amount of money in what was completely unjustified. So that's been a real concern. As you're also aware, there have been concerns recently in Thailand with repression of journalists, and closer to home for Australia, there's been a big controversy in the Solomon Islands. You'll be aware of the fact that the Solomons have now cozied up to China. The Chinese foreign minister visited the Solomon Islands, and the Solomon Islands government prevented journalists from questioning him in various functions that occurred in connection with his visit. And now the Solomon Islands government has called in the Australian Broadcasting Commission to read the Riot Act out to the ABC for broadcasting programs that were critical of the Solomon Islands and its connection with China, including some issues of potential corruption. So that's an issue that affects not just the Solomons, and Bob Howarth will say more about that, but other islands in the Pacific. And it's very concerning and really means that there's got to be a lot of many resources put back into capacity building and supporting free journalism in the Pacific. So I suppose the last, there's Sri Lanka, which you'll be aware has been involved in all sorts of shenanigans in the last little while, thanks to the Rajapaksa regime. But in fact, even though the Rajapaksa regime has been pushed out, there have still been problems with widespread attacks on press freedom and journalists that were really similar to the attacks on press freedom that occurred under the Rajapaksas. So there'll be a lot to take note of there. And again, it's a case for capacity building and giving support to journalists to exercise journalism freely and appropriately in Sri Lanka. And perhaps I can just finish up with some observations about Afghanistan, where the IFJ's again been involved. But Afghanistan's probably... I'm sorry? Sorry, is that better? Afghanistan's been perhaps the worst case of all of these in the Asia Pacific, and you'll be aware of the terrible things that have happened there, the fact that the journalist activity has been restricted massively, and it's been described as one of the bleakest years in Afghan history for the media. And so there are many issues that really need to be reported, not least being the treatment of women, but that's all the subject now of more repression by the Taliban. So who knows where that'll all finish up? But again, it's an important issue for Western and other journalists to support by way of resources and political support for journalists in Afghanistan. So it's a pretty bleak old picture, I'm afraid. Nothing's changed too dramatically, perhaps except for the case of Afghanistan. But what it all does is it serves to remind us how important it is to have proper legal frameworks and have proper campaigning to support the free press and free journalism in the region. And the IFJ has done what it can within its resources to promote the cause and will continue to do so, and is very grateful to the fact that the Press Council up here has been very supportive and is delighted to observe, as was this morning, that the Timor-Leste has risen right up in the Press Freedom Index and now occupies a very senior spot, which is very gratifying, and it's certainly an example to other countries in the region. So I might conclude my remarks there, and if anyone has any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. So I'll pass on to others.
Thanks a lot, Jim, for the brief update on what's happening in the region. Bob, can you hear me? Yes. Okay. Before we move, see that many translation devices. Hello. How hare ita para que comprende inglês, não é? Tradução simultânea disponível, mas hore barak makhatekret, nebe também sessão diálogo, ita prefere que ita maioria sela osototu, pelo menos ita maioria compreende. Também sela ita hate que malu ita nasene balu tau oklu metang tan, malayane kulit metang be sir hare semos, ami sira kulit muting ne kutado, ni hare lahetan tan. Mas espera kata kita maioria ita comprende. Los tambah ore radio ema bot sira radio komunidad sira pronto hotu ena ba ita hate ke malu rit hate ke mo ing dia kito ang babe dia hate ke fali haune desastre ne mai be pronto se ita hotu tu ka ita maioria percebe how hakat ba baina katir mai Signor Bob ita tenenia disponível ona. Hi Bob. Would you want to start now with an introduction and then whatever material you have prepared, and then we'll go to the next session, I guess. So go ahead, please. Thank you very much, Bob, for sharing all that information with us. I guess before we go to the Q&A session, I would invite the other guests, and then we can have a conversation, a dialogue session on the stories and the updates that you guys have provided. Dalalitan itahutu persebe, itahutu conseguirona saída makuhin itania vai nakasira presenta. Uin durante a apresentação aure ulung balu hakruk la tenereza tirsu makne kahalo medita saung makne marau makdit makhatene aman laran luak dit makhatene. Mai be espera katak itahutu acompaña saída makakontese. I tuirmai também itania vai naka senhora Ana husi UNESCO ihane ona itania vai naka tuirmai senhora Ana se introduce ni ang apresenta saída maknia prepara ona depois ita hakat vai naka tuirmai. So Ana, the floor is yours. You might want to introduce yourself and then to share with us, and then we will go to the next the last guest before we open the Q&A session.
Thank you. Okay. Thank you very much. So I'm Anna Lomtatse, representing UNESCO Communication and Information Sector, which handles press freedom and media development issues. The title of this panel, Media Under Digital Siege, is actually also the global theme of this year's World Press Freedom Day. It's an UN International Day, and every year it's celebrated everywhere in the world. In Timor-Leste also, there was a celebration organized by the Press Council, and the global conference took place in Uruguay. I will maybe just briefly offer some remarks about how we see the digital siege and why we chose this topic, why we think it's very important to discuss, and then I very much look forward to the Q&A session to make the session more interactive. So digital technologies have really had multifaceted impact on journalism. On the one hand, it has enabled new risks and harassment, such as targeted surveillance, hacking, doxing. Especially women journalists have been targeted because of their gender. On the other hand, it has created serious issues for economic sustainability, as most of the advertising funding is now flows through big platforms. And even though there are some efforts, like in Australia, to try for the media to get some funds based on their original reporting that appears on Google search and other platforms, it seems very difficult to keep this conversation going with the platforms because the relationship is so unequal. The final thing I'd like to raise is the spread of disinformation and hate speech. It looks like the content moderation practices put in place currently by social media platforms are often not adequately addressing hate speech and disinformation, because there is a lack of transparency or not enough investment in languages other than English for content moderation. There's also very little communication between civil society and platforms. Often civil society feel quite powerless in their relationship with platforms, and sometimes they get targeted by bots or buzzers, and their very justified content gets taken down instead of the actual hate speech and disinformation. Actually, in UNESCO Jakarta, we're implementing a project called Social Media for Peace, which is being piloted in Indonesia, Kenya, Bosnia and Herzegovina, where we're trying to work with government, social media platforms, and civil society to set up something called like a social media council, where civil society would have direct communication line with platforms and advise not necessarily on specific content, but actual structural issues and content moderation practices. So we very much hope to set this up in Indonesia in the coming year. This is all on my end. a bit of an overview how we see media economics. It has also brought a renewed trust in media and renewed their role in providing essential, life-saving, accurate information. So this is a good momentum to move forward and have this conversation among all stakeholders, from governments to technology companies to newsrooms to international organizations, on how we can strengthen media viability as well as press freedom and independence. Thank you.
Ada lidane fueng bahasa liman. Karek tambah ida kuliahne uing lahane sang amin. I guess we have a fourth guest, which is Miss Dara Nasution. How lahatene se Senhora Dara disponível atau join ona? Okay. Ita hingka hanesanebe. Oh. Hello Ibu Dara, selamat bergabung.
Terima kasih banyak Pak sudah mengundang saya. I'm gonna have this presentation in English, so I hope that's okay.
Yeah, well, English works. Bahasa Indonesia works as well here. Bahasa Indonesia is actually better because most of the audience will understand. But if you prefer to do it in English, yeah, if you prefer to do it in English, there's obviously simultaneous translation service available for the audience. So it's a decision at your discretion. So you might want to go ahead, beginning with your a brief introduction, I suggest, and then sharing with us the material you have prepared.
Yeah, but if I continue in Bahasa, would the panelists have the translation as well in English?
We don't have the devices with us, so I guess we would have to reserve back to English, I guess.
Okay, yeah. Okay, that's fine. I'm gonna do English then, so everyone can understand what I'm saying, if that's okay, because we have the devices with the audience in the room. Okay. Okay, I'm gonna start with introduction. So my name is Dara Nasution. I'm currently working at Meta as the Politics and Government Outreach Associate Manager, and I'm covering some countries in Southeast Asia, including Indonesia and also Timor-Leste. I'm based in Jakarta, so if any of you ever come to Indonesia, Jakarta, just let me know. Okay, so for today's session, I will have my presentation. Let me share my screen. Can you see it? Let me know if you...
Yes, we see something happening on the screen, so I guess it works.
Yeah, okay. So, yeah, this is the slide on my emails. If you want to connect more after this session, feel free to shoot me an email. Okay, so I'm going to start by talking about Meta mission. When I say Meta, I'm referring to four main products, which is called Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp, and also Messenger. So our mission is to give people the power to the community and bring the work closer together. And that is why we have so many stakeholders. Journalists is one of them, but we also have government, NGOs, and also like other wider audience. Okay, so this is some numbers about our collective user. As you can see here, that we have 3.5 billion of users across our family of apps. So all four apps that I just mentioned, this number equals with half of the billion of the population in the world. So this also means that we have a lot of contents going on the platform every single day. And in this presentation, I'm going to share a bit about how we moderate that content and our best effort to ensure that we try to balance between we consider. The first one is voice, the second one is privacy, and then safety, and then authenticity, and also dignity. So we understand that it's not an easy job to strike a balance between all these aspects, but we want to make sure that we give enough freedom for people to voice themselves, their authentic voice to be in our platform, but at the same time we also make sure that we protect people's privacy. That is why it has so many privacy settings that people can customize based on their on preference, because what counts as private for me might be different as what counts as private for you, for example. And also about the safety. So if anyone tries to intimidate or exclude or silence people in Facebook, we will automatically take down those kind of content. And also about authenticity, we have proactive measurement to take down fake account and also coordinated inauthentic behavior or CIB. We have that mechanism in place. And the last one is about dignity. We try our best to ensure that all users have equal dignity in our platform. So, as the operationalization of those values, we have this theme on our community standards. You can see here we have violence, dangerous organization, child exploitation, privacy violation, hate speech, and so on and so forth. So this is like some of the things that we have from those values. So you might be curious, like how do we enforce those community standards? So we have some mechanism in place. The first one is the feedback from our users. So in every content that appear in our platform, there's the three dot, and then we review it. But we also have learning and automatization at place, because we understand like all of this, we just rely on the user report. We don't have enough time to catch up with the speed of content. So we have the automatic machine learning in place, which they can catch the violating content even before anyone sees that. So we're actively trying to train our AI in this. But of course, in the middle of this two mechanism, we also have the human reviewer. Currently, we have around 30,000 people that are actively reviewing this in more than 50 languages, and we're currently expanding in the languages that we provide. And of course, we provide the reviewer with the continuous trainings and also review. Okay, the next issue that we're talking about is the misinformation. So basically, we have the mechanism in place to combat misinformation, and this is what we do to combat misinformation. We have three prong approach: remove, reduce, and report and inform. It's the remove.
thank you very much, Ibu Dara, for sharing all that useful information with us. I guess all our viewers have presented what they had, so we'll now open for the question and answer session. Tambay tanya bayna kanang hat presenta hutona ta hahude ho itania dialogo itania sessão pergunta e resposta atunune ita bele barak maktur komesa ane sang haude hangne ereza ter sumos ave maria la los teona neve dia klita matang loke te itoang ho pergunta ne par depois ita bele sente kata kita murisela hakar convida colega naing tolu ulu karikia pergunta rumah ba ida qualquer ida husita ne panelista sira itene bainaka sira atu bele hato perguntas e depois ita for tempo ba itania panelista sira tu bele hatan. Kari kita buat sira rumah ia pergunta. Oke, iha na ingrua presidenti mana Chris ia ida tan. Oh, there's also a question from Bob, so I guess that makes it 3. So we'll start from the president of the press council. Honoring ba presidente, halo favor.
Dia tamahone pergunta ne how dirige ba Mbak Dara Nasution Husimeta. Saya harap Mbak Dara masih, Ibu Dara masih dengar di sebelah sana. Ya, pertanyaan saya mengenai, ini mungkin pertanyaan tapi juga semacam keprihatinan atau keinginan juga dari Dewan Pers. Saya tahu bahwa Timor-Leste, masyarakat pengguna Timor-Leste, pengguna sosial media terutama Facebook bukan suatu pasar yang begitu besar signifikan untuk Meta atau untuk Facebook, tapi sebagai pimpinan dari sebuah lembaga yang juga memberi perhatian kepada kepentingan publik, kami dihadapkan pada tuntutan publik untuk memantau atau konten-konten di sosial media terutama di Facebook di Timor-Leste. Jadi satu hal yang kita sekarang sedang mencari adalah bagaimana model-model di negara lain, bagaimana bisa kerjasama dengan Facebook untuk mereport ke Facebook tentang konten-konten yang misalnya penghasutan atau hate speech yang terjadi. Sayangnya sampai sekarang Facebook, Google dan yang lain belum mengakui bahasa Tetun, bahasa nasional yang lebih banyak digunakan oleh pengguna di Timor-Leste untuk menyampaikan pendapat termasuk misinformasi, desinformasi atau hate speech itu. Pertanyaannya, apakah dari Meta bisa mempresentasikan atau mengusulkan model-model yang bisa diadopsi oleh Timor-Leste untuk menjawab keprihatinan publik itu, terutama tentang konten-konten di sosial media yang kadang-kadang melenceng dari standar komunitas yang disampaikan oleh Mbak Dara tadi. Kita dari pihak kita sudah ada pembicaraan untuk kerjasama ke depan untuk bagaimana memperkuat pemahaman masyarakat tentang standar-standar dalam penggunaan itu. Itu saja pertanyaan saya. Terima kasih Mbak Dara.
Ya mungkin karena ini dialog, mungkin sebaiknya dijawab dulu, supaya kemudian kita lanjut ke pertanyaan berikut langsung ada jawabannya juga. Menurut saya itu lebih baik. Tapi kalau memang teman-teman mengusulkan kita 3 pertanyaan dulu baru dijawab, biasanya kalau terlalu panjang itu kasihan. Ibu-ibu terlalu lebar kasihan bapak-bapak. Jadi mendingan satu pertanyaan dijawab dulu, ya toh, pendek seperti saya, tapi enak gitu loh.
Oke, terima kasih Pak pertanyaannya langsung saya tanggapi ya. Jadi memang kerjasama kami dengan Timor-Leste baru dimulai tahun ini, yaitu dengan Bapak Ibu dan teman-teman dari Dewan Pers. Dan kami senang sekali bahwa Bapak Ibu dan teman-teman sempat juga berkunjung ke kantor kami di Indonesia beberapa waktu yang lalu. Jadi memang saya harap ini adalah pintu masuk bagi banyak kerjasama ke depannya lagi. Dan tentu ada banyak hal yang bisa kita kolaborasikan. Yang pertama mungkin program literasi digital yang tadi saya sebutkan juga bisa untuk diteruskan di Timor-Leste untuk menjangkau masyarakat yang lebih luas lagi. Dan yang kedua memang bahasa Tetu saat ini belum masuk ke dalam bahasa yang kami awasi untuk di platform, tapi ini adalah salah satu masukan bagus agar ketika kami nantinya memperluas bahasa yang akan digunakan, bahasa itu juga bisa untuk dimasukkan. Tapi yang bisa saya tekankan pada hari ini adalah sekarang kita sudah memiliki kontak seperti ini. Apabila memang Bapak Ibu dan teman-teman dari Dewan Pers secara keseluruhan atau NGO lain memiliki masukan ataupun sesuatu input yang mungkin terkait konten yang perlu ditindaklanjuti di platform kami, mohon dikabari saja ke kami untuk sementara dan kami akan lakukan measurement atau tindakan yang diperlukan sambil kita menunggu nanti ada sesuatu yang lebih terinstitusionalisasi. Mungkin seperti itu ya Pak.
Terima kasih banyak buat jawabannya Mbak Dara. Tu irmã Mana Cris, halo favor.
Jack, well, thank you for the opportunity. I would like to appreciate to the Dara Nasution to your presentation, very useful for us, especially in Timor-Leste journalists. So I have a question here regarding about your digital literacy program. What kinds of the digital literacy program do you have, and who is your target group in this program? The second one, you explain about you have the collaboration with the civic society. So, what I would like to find out here, so what kind partner do you have for? So maybe you give us details information about the partner you work with, because usually we have is in Timor-Leste civic society, we just support a collaboration with them regarding with the media campaigns and advocacy itself. So what the content you have with them? Thank you.
Thank you so much for the excellent question. So for our digital literacy program, we have several stakeholders in place. For example, like we think digital that we have, our main stakeholder is the young people because we think that they should develop the critical thinking from the early
Thank you very much. Bob, are you with us?
I think Bob in mute.
Ah, okay. We can see you again on the screen. Did you have a question to ask? I think you are still muted, so if you don't mind, would you please unmute your microphone? We can't hear you from here, so. Yeah, we're good now.
Okay, back on the air. I've got a question for Darren, because I don't know if my friend Gilles asked the same question, which is about Tetlin Translate. 3 years ago, I was in Timor-Leste when I photographed a march through the street by students and journalists saying
Obrigado, Barak. Dia kita ni tempo tuir mai basic ona, tukuhat, tuir agenda nebe hausimu. Mai be karik ya kolega rumah saya pergunta ida karua karik bele hato, ida poesi ta bele remata. Presidente Arkatil, Aureli membalu komisi hitona. Ida husikotok makuhin uluk. Ano yung presidente tahin ito ang demokrasya ni haturo katak presidente o puvo hanay sandet.
Okay. Ako timpulo krakon ito sa tamba batari ba orador no moderador no kole participante batari todos. Okay. How laia perguntas, mas vai for recomendação dele. Okay. A apresentação weng laia Timor-Leste atau apresenta. Agora nene laia mas bose ma tu renere. Ano recomendação ne ba program sir agora rak ita kriane. Experiência ne be ma kita tane furak tebe. Mas be am ki konse laia kebit atu implementa. So governo sir ma kia poder nebe bot no canal nebe mak bot dominante bele implementa ba bele implementa media ga teknologi ba itna nasaw tamit na nasaw ne gasta o sambar ba internet mabe internet ne fraco tebes yem na rai gasta ituang mabe internet laudia aklo mabe agora ita tu implementa idenen amila ya kibita tu implementa so ye governante sema mabe agora governante darum balba tu na dum kunese mabe am kigde tene govern la ira to participa sama internet ne atau teknologi atau lau mudah no lau efektif am kikuan lebih lalu kibit lebih layak kibit atau al buat rumah maknanya obrigado by itu buat
Diak, ane sang baybang itarona telemor hetan diak liu. Sesira hene itabel hetan diak liu. Kung sira la hene itaniliga saung laona fating. Presidente, halo favor.
Thank you for the chance. First of all, I would like to appreciate for the all panelists. I think I got a lot of information that really make me feel that we should do something in East Timor because the fact that we see that at the time in Timor-Leste the digitalization era is very, I mean that people need to adapt with the process of how the digitalization process going up. I want to ask to Anna from UNESCO. You know that maybe in East Timor at the moment the written to the journalists, especially for the women journalists, to get a head speech. It's at the moment maybe it's not too much, but maybe in the future we will face a problem like this. And then also about the digitalization literation. I think two things is very important for us. So I just want to ask, what will UNESCO offer to us here for the journalist association or any community, any media association here? how they can access to get support for these things. And then for the literacy of the digitalization, I want to say for the Press Council, Timor-Leste Press Council, have started to make a contact or to make a link with Meta from Indonesia. This is a good thing for us. But I want every project of communication should be implemented based on the interest of the community. So before we start it, we need to have good information here, and then that information could be used when we want to start implementing the project or the program like this. Because you know that if you face the Facebook user here, many hate speech happen. It's very, we can find it when it's close to the election. We will see many people sometimes use Facebook to blame each other using not good comments. So I hope after this dialogue, we should do something together to implement something that maybe it will can prevent what will happen in our election. I mean that we need to contribute after this dialogue. Obrigado.
Hello, Prezados. Thank you for your question. So UNESCO works on gender and digital literacy in different ways. One of our goals is to basically produce standards, guidelines. So we have produced things like gender-sensitive reporting media guidelines, which help media assess how sensitive their content is in terms of gender, like to actually count how many women they interview as experts versus men, how do they represent women in their programming. But also another part of this is to assess how media operate, how media respects gender equality in its operations. So is there a wage gap? Do women journalists have proper maternity leave, proper conditions? Are there HR policies against harassment? So based on these guidelines, then we provide capacity building training. We also support content production that addresses gender equality and gender mainstreaming. In terms of media and information literacy, again, we produce guidelines. We work with youth organizations, schools, journalists. In Timor-Leste, we plan to work with the University of Timor-Leste, the National University of Timor-Leste, to do a fact-checking training for journalism students. And then hopefully these students can actually do mentorship for high school students too. So in terms of getting funding from UNESCO, like one practical source or suggestion, we have two global programs. One is called International Program for Development of Communication, IPDC, and the other is the Media Defense Fund. So the first one, International Program for Development of Communication, it offers small grants, anywhere from 10 to 30, 40,000 US dollars to implement projects that have to do with media development, media information literacy, access to information. The calls for these grants are usually on our website, so I encourage you to visit them and obtain, any information you need. The Media Legal Defense Fund, it's the same. The call for applications is issued on the website. This one is more focused on safety of journalists and strengthening legal mechanisms for protecting press freedom. And so anybody, NGOs or media can apply for these grants. I encourage you to contact me and my colleagues to learn more about these opportunities. Both of these programs are funded by a variety of different states through UNESCO. So, other than that, a UNESCO Jakarta office also covers Timor-Leste, Philippines, Malaysia, Brunei. And in Timor-Leste, I am, together with my colleague Adelina, who is here, we are the main points of contact, and we're always happy to be in touch with media associations. We would especially like to show support for community radios who play a very important role in strengthening the pluralism of media. So, thank you.
Diak, itanya oras liutan teo na tukuhat. Tambane pergunta si Presiden Arkatil haulat yang sekarik seiha may be seiha ida date tambah itanya oras liutia.
Diak, obrigado a tempo. Há uma pergunta, how dedica a senhora Dara, desculpa. Iya, depois de ir ao uso hoteto, jador ini mek barak, lá significa kata informação de mek passa hene pa nene maioria los no dia kotgeran. Mas be uinsa ia Indonesia rasik, atau limita ba utilizador Facebook sira. Nebe mak passa informação hoax. Então, hanesan Conselho Imprensa ia Indonesia, uinsa bele foto alternativo rumah pa ia, sira ida nebe mak passa bebek informação hoax by media atau nune utilizador sir-seruk label konsum informação de hoax tama Facebook at passa informação de dia by seruk nebe mak persija tu esta informação dia obrigado.
The question is given the amount of hoax that is being spread over Facebook, what does Indonesia do to prevent the spreading of hoax on Facebook? And what does the press council, the Indonesian Press Council, do to prevent that, to combat that problem as well? Dia, sudah selesai ya Bu ya?
Ya, sudah.
Oh, makasih. Dia, mesmo que kita balu saya karak husutan, maybe mesmo que kita balu karik se ia botra matu husu, maybe dala idatan itane tempo conselho de imprensa for how to tempo bahau atu bele hare fali serviço seluk. Tambane how thank you sudah desculpa, ita tem cremate tene sessão ene. Agradece vai ita botsirania participação. Thank you very much for your presence, for sharing with us all the information that I believe would be very useful, especially for the journalists, the media community in Timor-Leste, and especially the press council. Knowing to banedit itania sessão diálogo ba uhin loro craik daletan obrigado barak e hauni agradecimento profundo ba conselho imprensa nebe organiza una forum diálogo idane nomos for a oportunidade de moderar sessão idane e até próxima.
Obrigado ba moderador, molo kita ba coffee break. How convida moderador ho orador say photo session.
So before end this event, I would like to invite Mr. Jim Nolang and Mrs. Anna with the moderator, Mr. Francis de Suni, to be in front of the stage. We're going to have a photo session. Then we will end this event. Membro do Conselho de Imprensa Sira, bela rola fatin musuing. We would also would like to thank to Mrs. Dara from Indonesia. And also would like to thank to Mr. Bob from Australia. Thank you for your time. Before end, I would like to present to all of you one beautiful song was sung by the singer, Mr. Izo Pereira. Mong Izo, your time.
Obrigado. Usi onara ne bebe ala usi kela onenaran hau kuda meten ia haunya fua usi loro mata Vera Roman iarai hatur onenara Timor lorosai usimate biansira nebeli ona ya tempo koto Usifunu na nasira nebe mate baraine Alulikonye nara aksumikia amelia atur onye nara Timor lorosai O Timor o Macau ni arai Rai inur la fage loro mata sae sulin gusi hau niara susaria hau nia fua o macau niarai Timor loro sai Adomi Timor 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 Adomi Timor
Obrigada, Barak Mong Izo. Espera kata Hadomi Timor Banafating. Excellency, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, would like to thank for all the presence, especially for the guests from Uyantel, Unital, from the beginning in the morning till the end of ceremony still with us. So thank you very much. We hope that in the second day, tomorrow you will be in this hall again for the Daily Dialogue Forum with the national speakers. So that's the end. Thank you very much. We hope you enjoy your coffee break.
Excelência, no distinto convidado Sira, lorong ohinian minuto ikus, awan ita sur malu fale ia lalini largo tu salaune, no selorio si Maunlau Costa ho mana enzi, no se ia sessão debate, moderador husi conselheiro Expedito Loro Dias. Também funcionário conselho de imprensa, ita ho membro sira ita foto hamutuk, depois ita ba café manas. Basira nabe ohin usa translation dis, que ta lua, mas ta fale fatin ia mesa ita ne. Nune aban ita continua usando fatin. Obrigado, Barak.